I'm holding nothing back. This is probably going to be some of the best advice you'll get on how to get a job in Asia and come out on top. What is the fastest and easiest way to get a job teaching English abroad? Well, that's pretty easy. You just have to have the correct documents, know where to find these jobs, and how to pass your demo in your interview process. Let's look at my 3-step process on how you can get jobs in Southeast Asia with almost no problems at all. So let's get into it. When it comes to applying for a job in Southeast Asia, you are going to need a few documents. You're going to need a 4-year bachelor's degree, 120-hour TEFL certification, and both of these need to be notarized by your embassy. And then you're going to need a criminal and a medical background check that you want to do in the country you're going to. And finally, you need a 30 to 60 second introduction video, which is something that's being required you have to do now. So just a side note, if you don't have a 4-year bachelor's degree, that's fine. Places like Cambodia, you can work in their country legally without a degree and still get a work permit. So these steps that I'm going to help you with today will get you a job in Cambodia at a high paid value. So get a pen, get a paper, and follow along. Let's get into it. Introduction video. This is kind of a newer idea that was more common for online schools, but is becoming very normal and expected in 2023 and beyond in Southeast Asia. To give you some tips on how to do this correctly, your video should and has to be scripted and recorded as many times as you have to make sure it comes off perfect, show that you're confident and you're excited about teaching. And remember, the mission of this introduction video is to prove to them why you are the best fit for their school. So with this being said, do not focus on yourself on introduction videos. Focus on what you can do for them and sell yourself to them. So to give you some tips on how to do this correctly and the best way, I'm going to give you a checklist of things that have worked for me personally and worked with other people I've helped in Vietnam and Thailand get jobs and get their introduction videos perfect. Number 1, personal appearance and background. Number 2, clear speaking. And please avoid any types of American or European slang. Number 3, your past teaching experience. Do a quick breakdown, but don't make this a whole dialogue. Number 4, activities. This is very important, and we'll talk about more why this is, but this has to be in your introduction video. Number 5, talk about the country you're going to. I've seen so many people not get jobs because they went too far on this one. So keep it brief, to the point. And finally, number 6, end your video on what value you can bring to the school. And some basic ideas you can use are: students learn English fast with you, students love to have you around, you bring positive energy to the environment. Whatever it is, put out a few things that will make them remember your introduction video and why you're such a good fit. And again, this should focus on how it's going to benefit the school, not you. They are looking for the best investment to hire. You, the teacher, can you help that school do well, get more money, get more customers, etc., etc. This is the bare truth of it. This is what goes on in the back door. How does this person benefit my business? They're not going to hire you because you have a good smile, unless you're Tom Cruise. So put your video together, be excited, show confidence, and prove to them why you are the best fit. They have hundreds of applications to go through. So this introduction video could make or break you. And rule number 1, we talked about background. Record your video in a professional setting. Don't do it in your bedroom, in a bathroom, or at some random park with dogs barking. A professional and inspiring background, being something that shows education, can leave a lasting effect and also show how serious you are, as well as you have a background in whatever you're doing. Now, if you have no idea how to do this, you've scripted it, but you just don't know how to get the body language and whatnot down, check out italki. Look at the introduction videos of a lot of these teachers and take notes on what they're doing and what actually is selling you to actually sign up for them. Find those things and integrate them into your video. You want this video to be fun, exciting, motivating. Record as many times as you have to get the perfect product. Once you're done, you got the hard part out of the way. The next one are lesson plans. You're going to want to write 3 to 5 lesson plans on different subjects or different levels. And the purpose of this is to show off your ability to write lesson plans. Most schools are going to require you to write them for every class. So if you can show beforehand that this isn't even a problem at all, you're going to be ahead of the curve. They can be on things like basic English, IELTS training classes, English communication, can be on grammar and pronunciation. Also, try to make one of them focus on primary classes. It has a lot of activities, a lot of games. It is very easy to understand and perform because a lot of classes that you'll be offered are going to be primary. So this is an important one. And with that being said, do not write 3 to 5 lesson plans that are on the same exact subject. Make them very different. And the reason for that, if they start looking through these lesson plans and they look identical, they're just going to assume you made photocopies of the same one. Now it's no longer impressive. And for you guys that got my ebook on how to write lesson plans or activities, or went through the TEFL program that I offer below, I'll help you even more. For the next 30 days of this video, check the link below. There's an email. Email me your introduction video. Email me your lesson plans, and I will personally look at them and I'll help you critique them and make them better. And this also includes if you're doing the TEFL certification final exam, they make you write a lesson plan. If you need help on that, let me know. Again, the email below. Documents and work permits. Getting your documents for a work permit is honestly pretty straightforward, and it's a lot easier than people make it out to be. The main two things that you need is your degree and your TEFL, which need to be certified by your embassy directly. This means that they make a photocopy of it, they stamp it, and they sign it. Pretty much saying this is a real degree, a real TEFL, and this is a real copy of it. This is what you give to the government. In Thailand, you need a copy of your transcript as well. And like I said before, if you are in Cambodia or if you don't have a degree, you just need to get your TEFL certified and notarized. That's it. Now I want to give you a quick hack, or I guess a tip. When it comes to your university degree and your TEFL, make 2 copies of each. Laminate your real degree and your copy degrees. Do the same with your TEFL. These photocopy ones that you laminate that look exactly like your real ones are going to be the ones that you give to your school if they've ever asked for them. And I've been doing this idea for the last 8 years. I've never once had a problem. The point of this is places like Vietnam and Thailand are notorious for asking for your original documents and keeping them. And later on down the road, they start holding your documents. They use them as blackmail, they use them as leverage, or even they hold them as ransom to keep you to stay at the school or even negotiate your salary pays or whatnot. So if you're giving them a copy of your original degree that looks real, then they're not gonna have a lot of pull over you. And you also have the ability to be like, you know what, just keep the degree. I'm gonna contact my embassy about your school, and you can just walk out without a fear. Only time I give the real copies to anybody is when I give it to the US Embassy to do the notarization part. And do keep this in mind. Local governments in Asia will never ask you for your original documents. They will always ask for the notarized version of these documents. And the main reason for it is, 1, it's illegal for them to hold the originals, but 2, they don't give these documents back. They use them for their process paperwork. And also, speaking of TEFL certifications, I get asked this question a lot, especially in Vietnam and Thailand. And that is it worth it going to a TEFL live class in these countries? And when I say live class, this means that you pay a certain fee and you go through this like 30 to 60 day program where they teach you live in the country. They let you go through demo classes and they give you the same certification you would get from going through the one below, but you go through the live class. Is it worth it is the question. And honestly, I say skip them. I've went through 3 of them just as a sponsorship to see how these programs worked. And what I've noticed with every one of them is, 1, they cost a lot. You're typically paying $1,000 to $2,000 for a $200 or $300 TEFL certification. 2, they drag it out from 3 to 8 weeks to do something that should only take a weekend to do. And the job placement assistance that a lot of these programs offer, it's almost borderline garbage. A lot of them actually just use Facebook and local agents to place you into a job, which is something you can already do yourself and save a whole lot of money. You typically have to pay for your own room while you stay in these countries, so you're paying for your own board. And when it comes to the training on these TEFL programs, most of the time is very generic basic stuff that you could probably learn on a YouTube video. And the certification that they give you, it never supersedes the one that you can get through the link below. There is no hierarchy. So in conclusion, a TEFL program will cost you more. It'll take more time. You're paying them to give you feedback on something that you could probably learn on your own. Where the counterpart is, you can get a job at an English center where they will hire you. They will train you on how they want you to teach their students because they're going to have their own means of training. And plus, you'll have a TA that will help you give you feedback and help you along the way. So why not get paid to actually learn how to teach if you don't know how to? For you guys that have this idea of like, well, you don't get real training doing an online TEFL program, you are right to an extent. And we've already talked about this, where you get some kind of training with the TEFL program over 2 months, paid a couple $1,000s. But again, you're paying them to teach you how to do something, and you're paying them to get feedback back to you on how you can improve, right? Why not get paid at an English center that will train you, give you feedback, have a TA that will most likely be there to assist you, and the whole time get paid for it. And a lot of these places also have housing assistance for you too. Check the link below, get the one online, get this thing done over the weekend, email me your lesson plan, your introduction video. Let's get stuff done, and this will save you thousands of dollars and a whole bunch of time. And boom, just saved you a couple $1,000s. So hit that subscribe button, follow along, and I'll save you a whole bunch more money along the way with more videos about how to teach and what to expect out here. But I will say there are benefits to these, and I think the biggest benefit I saw from this is the social network. Like, you meet a lot of like-minded people, you meet a lot of Western people that are there for the same reason. Jump into a taxi. Go to a local bar where a lot of Western people already go. Sit down and drink and start talking, because those people are probably the same teachers that you would meet in one of these TEFL classes. Let's go to the next one. Background and medical exams. When it comes to the background police check and the medical exam, you can get all that done here in Asia. It's typically better to get it done here because, one, it's in their language. So if you have your own police background check, you're going to have to go take it to an embassy, get translated to the local language, and then get it notarized. That in itself is going to take a long time, and it's going to cost you an extra $50 to $100 per document. To get anything translated in Southeast Asia can take weeks to months. Now, there are places like Vietnam, for example, where you have to wait 3 months before you can do a background check. Don't worry about it. In Vietnam, you're allowed a business visa to work in Vietnam legally as a teacher. So what will happen is they'll give you a business visa to work while you're waiting for your 3 months to pass. And then the next one is the medical check. It's the same game plan. This one is very important not to do back home. There are designated hospitals, different parts of the country where they do these background checks. These are specialized medical checks that have to be done here. Each country has their own requirements on what they want done with these medical checks. So places like South Korea, for example, they want you to get a psych test done, and they also want you to break down your drug history. Places like Cambodia or Laos, they want you to get an HIV test and also types of testing that checks for cancers that's related to lungs and kidneys. And when it comes to places like Vietnam, they want you to get an HIV test, they want you to get a Hep C test, I believe it is, and they also want you to get blood work done to check for any drug abuse. And just like the legal background check that you have to do out here, they want this done in their own language. And there is designated hospitals in each country where you have to get these medical checks done. And doing one back home wouldn't be accepted here, even if you had it translated, unless you got the whole everything done. But still, translations, go to the embassy, get it notarized, more money, more time. Just do it here. Plus, it only takes like 30 minutes to get done here. Do it all when you get here. Get your TEFL certification online. Link below. It's way cheaper and way faster than going to one of these TEFL program classes in Asia that typically charge you thousands of dollars and take months of your time and end up just throwing you in the same job. I could probably find you on the internet next 2 days. Prepare all your documents, be it your degree, your TEFL, and if you're in Thailand, your transcripts. Get them notarized, copied, all of that good stuff. Get your introduction video of 30 to 60 seconds. Get it recorded, get it finalized. Email it to me. We'll go over it. We'll make sure it's great. It's the best. And finally, get your 3 to 5 lesson plans. Get all those placed out, printed out, and have them done. This is all stuff that we can get knocked out over the weekend. And finally, doing your medical and your background check, wait until you get to the country. Do not even sweat it. Don't worry about it. When you get a job, they're going to start walking you through the process already because they need you to get it done anyways. Where to find a job. Finding a job in Asia is a lot easier than a lot of these YouTube videos and blog posts talk about. So there are some things that you're going to need to find a job. And the first ones are just communication. If you're in places like Vietnam, you're going to want Zalo. If you're in Thailand, you're going to want Line. For pretty much the rest of Asia though, Facebook Messenger and Telegram are probably your 2 best bets, and probably have WhatsApp as well, and you should be okay because this is how the agents and schools are going to contact you. Now when it comes to actually finding a job, the most common places in all of Asia to find a job is going to be Facebook, Dave's ESL Cafe. This has nothing to do with me, but it's a great website to go to. TEFL.com has a lot of job postings where schools will place. This is typically for international university schools though. Those jobs typically require you to have a master's degree, but it's still worth a look. If you did go through the link below to get your TEFL certification over this next weekend, they will help you with the process with a live person to get that job. For you guys that are coming to Vietnam, check out this website, VietnamTeachingJobs.com. Go on there, do your digital CV, and start searching for jobs. It's one-click applying. Now, if you do want to work for an English center or a government school, I strongly suggest going through these schools directly. If you're in places like Vietnam, major.edu.vn, ILA.edu.vn, or RMIT.edu.vn is another one. Now, I know these are only Vietnam ones. If you go to Thailand, places like Aeon are a good option, and then Wall Street English is another one. So check out online. My advice, go to Google, what are English centers in this country, search those websites, apply through them directly. The main reason for this is, one, you'll get the fastest reply. Two, you won't worry about agent commissions and having to negotiate your salary as much. Now, if you are trying to apply for a government public school directly, my advice is to have somebody help you with this. Email them your CV and your cover sheet, but the first part of it should be in their native language, and then under it should be the English version. The people that are reading these emails typically don't speak English, and they're not required to by their job. They're just administrative people that are going through a bunch of government emails and yada yada yada. So if they see yours in English, they're most likely going to think it's spam, they're going to delete it, or they're just going to go to the next one and forget about it. And finally, agents. Agents are typically just kind of like placement players. They cut and paste advertisements on the Facebook using their own accounts. They find Westerners, they pre-qualify these Westerners, and then they push them over to the school or the English center for their one-time commission or their salary commission. That's really all there is to it. And for you guys that aren't aware of what a salary commission, this is kind of important. Let me explain it to you real fast. So this isn't a one-time finder's fee that they get. This is where they actually get part of your salary for an X amount of months, whatever the school and the agent agree on. This is something that the agent and the school talk about behind the scenes. And also, when they post these job listings, they're typically putting what your salary will be after they get their commission. So you don't even know what it is. Now, they can negotiate a little now and say, we'll give you an extra $100 a month for your job, but they are sacrificing their own salaries. This is kind of a downfall of going through an agent, is you're going to get less pay up front. And another problem with agents is they typically don't understand the job, the school, or what's really going on. So a lot of agents tend to lie or sugarcoat the job. And then once they push you over to the school and you talk to the school, you start realizing, oh, this wasn't what I was promised. You're kind of in a bad spot, and so is the school, because you've already signed a contract and they've realized you're not a good fit. And finally, make sure you're careful when you send documents to agents. Agents typically want you to send your degree, your ID, your passports, you know, all that stuff, because they are trying to pre-qualify you. So it does make sense why they do this, but you have to be careful. It is okay to black out some of the personal information. And the reason for this is because your information will be used for adverts on Facebook and etc. This is very common with visa agents as well, is where they'll take your passport, they will scan it, and they'll put it onto their Facebook page saying, hey, I help Americans get visas. But the problem is they don't blank out the information. So your name, your passport number, your driver's license number, your actual home address might actually be on Facebook through these things, and this leads to fraud. And the reason I speak about this and know about this is because it happened to me back in 2019, because one of the agents posted my Hawaii driver's license on their Facebook, and they somebody stole my information and started running credit card bills up in Hawaii under my name. And with all this said, I'm not saying agents are bad. They are a good way to find a job when you're in a hard spot. And if you're new to a country, agents typically can be a better bet because they know where to look when you don't. But in all, this is why I suggest applying at an English center if it's your first job. It's simply because they hire year-round. They do all your paperwork for you, or they at least assist you and walk you through it. They typically pay more on the first day with benefits, to where an agent is typically balancing getting that salary commission or whatnot. All the terms and conditions are typically on the application when you apply, so you know what you're going to get paid, you know what your hours are, what classes you're teaching, what benefits you get, and stuff like that. Centers typically also hold training where they train you to teach the way they want you to. This is a huge benefit for you guys that are getting the TEFL with the link below, and you're coming here not knowing exactly how to get stuff done. An English center will actually walk you through the basics of what they expect from you. Plus, English centers typically have TAs and teachers' assistants that will help you teach. And finally, how to land the job. The final step in all of this is getting hired once you find this job. This step of the process has always been the easiest one for me. And this really comes down to, I'm just confident, I got all my documents put together, I've researched the school, and when I go into these interviews, I look confident and I don't look desperate. And as long as you paid attention to everything we've talked about so far in this video, you're gonna be in that same position, walking in there, owning that interview, getting exactly what you guys agreed on. Let's break down the actual process of what goes on when you finally do find that job with an agent or a school, and what steps you should expect and how you should handle it. Step 1, messaging. Messaging is typically the introduction stage. This is where the agent or the school is going to kind of pre-qualify you. This is when they typically check your documents, make sure you are what you say you are, and also they go over your introduction video. Now, a warning, in this part of the game, do not debate anything about the job. And this includes the salary, the benefits, what's even going on. If you want to ask the questions, go for it, but don't turn this into a negotiation stage for you. The whole point of the messaging messaging part is just the agent or the school making sure you are the best bet for this school. And if you get through all of this and you meet the requirements, that takes us to step 2, the video call interview. Most of Asia is about the visual aspect of teachers, not so much about the skill. Be ready for the video call. If you ignore a video call or if you refuse it, you most likely will not be qualified for the job, and they'll also just stop talking to you. And they just want to see how you talk and sound. And the person you're typically talking to in this position is going to be the agent, or it's going to be the school directly. This is a phone call about what you could do for them. So try to avoid personal stories and playing around. Nobody cares if you played tennis back in varsity. Nobody cares you thought Tupac was better than Biggie. All of that is irrelevant to this part of the interview. But I've seen so many teachers try to get personal with the agent or the HR person. They're just there to make sure you qualify and you hit a bunch of requirements. Don't flirt with them. Don't try to be cute. Answer the questions. Be professional. Step 3, demo lessons. Demo lessons come into 2 stages. 1, you're going to cover a teacher that's sick, or you're just going to cover a class that nobody even has a teacher for. Step 2, you're going to go to a school or a center and you're going to teach in front of different teachers that are going to act like the students. Now, I will say, if you go to a school where you're going to do a demo class in front of teachers, don't expect to get paid for this. It's part of the interview. Now, if you're going to be teaching a live class as a demo, talk to them about the pay. Typically, you'll get at least 50% pay to do that class. Make sure you get paid for this. Sometimes you won't. Make sure you at least ask about it. There's a lot of times where schools, especially in Vietnam, I've seen this, where people will find demo classes for teachers to come teach a class because they needed somebody to cover the class, and they never intended to hire you. Now, a little tip for you, if you do go teach one of these classes and it is a bunch of adults and they're gonna act like primary student level because they think it's fun. And this is a big part of why you had different lessons written out at the beginning. Take out that primary lesson plan you already wrote and start teaching it. No problems. It'll look like you're a natural. Now, when you do show up to the demo lesson, you're going to want to have some documents on hand. You want to have your CV, your 3 to 5 lesson plans, your degree, your TEFL, and your transcripts if you are in Thailand. And remember, bring your copy ones. Don't bring the originals. So if they do want to keep them overnight or whatever the process might be, maybe they do need to keep them so they can verify with their HR department if they're real or not. And that's fine. They're not going to verify if the paper's real. And plus, if they do damage it or if they try to hold it as blackmail or something like that, you could just be like, you know what? Keep it. And you'll be perfectly fine. Look at me, giving you stress-free hacks. Hit that subscribe button. I got a lot more coming up. Now, when you are showing up for these interviews, some places like Vietnam and Cambodia, they're old school. They want to see paper. So my advice is to have printout copies of your CV, your transcripts, your TEFL, and all that stuff. So they want to touch them. And it makes things feel better for them, and it makes the interview process go a lot smoother. Now, a little key note, when you do your demo lesson, remember your demo lessons, you're displaying what you're going to do in a classroom. You have to do activities. I cannot stress this enough. This is a must. Activities are something you have to do in these classes. This is something demanded by the school. This is also something demanded from the parents themselves. I have seen a lot of teachers get complaints and feedback. It is always about activities. This is mandatory. So check below. I've used them myself. Other teachers have used them. They will put you in a position to walk through this demo like a champ. And the cool thing about the activities is if you don't know what to do, if you're in a class, it goes too fast, it goes too slow, or the kids are just getting bored, you can just throw an activity out top of your head, boom, 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 do that, everyone's happy. I've done demo lessons where all I did was activities. There was no lesson. There were just games. And they were just like, we love this guy. Hire him now. Activities are seriously that important. And all the activities I've written, they work for any age group, any subject, and they don't require really anything that you can't find in a classroom. And back to the lesson plans real fast. You need to bring printed out copies of these 3 to 5 lesson plans. This is so important. I can't stress this enough. And nobody ever talks about this. Your job is going to consist of a lot of lesson plan writing. It's going to be required by especially English centers. So why wouldn't you bring them? In business, we have this idea. If you give a customer more than 3 items to buy, they get confused. I think you guys have heard this example before, right? We want to leverage this psychology. So having more than 3 lesson plans that don't look identical, that cover different subjects, is exactly what you want. You want to confuse them to the point where they're like, wow, he writes a lot of good lesson plans. Make sure you have 3 to 5. I say 3 to 5 because 3 is the bare minimum, but I strongly suggest writing 5. A common question is asked is like, what do I write them about? Do I just like write 5 random lesson plans? No. Research what the school offers. Write something in each. Like write a science one, write an English one, write an IELTS one, primary, secondary, high school English, communication English, adult English, business English. Write different ones so they have a category or a catalog of lesson plans that you can write. This is such a selling point, and they need to have activities written into them. And remember, do not cut and paste lesson plans. If they all look the same, they're going to assume that you just printed out 5 copies of the same one. And again, check the email below, send them to me. I will help you critique them and we'll make them the best. You have 30 days from this video dropping to get my help on this. And when you are doing the actual demo lesson, be confident. You already have your lesson plan, you already know what to do. If things go too fast or if the kids start getting bored, rip out an activity. That's what they really want. I can't stress how much they love activities, so please have them in your lesson plans. Step 4, the final interview with the school itself. This is the point where you start asking the questions about the pay, the benefits, the hours, what you're actually teaching. And the person you're going to be sitting across from is going to have the ability to negotiate any of this stuff with you. It reminds me when I went to EMG for the first time. This is like 6-7 years ago, and I applied. And I went in as an English teacher. And they were like, what's your degree? And I said, it's in engineering, and I have another one in business. They're like, oh, you know engineering. Immediately, in that interview, I went from being offered like 38 million Vietnamese dong a month to 59 because of what I could do. If I would have asked the agent this, I wouldn't have had that opportunity. So this is the moment to start asking. And this happens with having your top-notch lesson plans with those amazing activities, all your paperwork in order, walking in there confident, and crushing that demo lesson. If you bring all that to the table, you're gonna have more power to negotiate. Sometimes schools will just offer you the top rate. That's just how it is sometimes. And finally, never leave an interview without asking a question. You cannot leave an interview without asking a question. This makes you seem like you don't have real interest in this position, and people feel that vibe. So if you don't have any questions, then do this little trick. I do this all the time. Ask them, when can I start? And what this does is a few things. They'll let me know right away, like if there's other teachers they gotta hire, if they really are actually hiring, if what they felt about me. And I've asked this before, like, you know, we really like you, David. Like, you're awesome. Your demo lesson was on point. Your lessons are crushing it. You have the degree that we need, but we do have to interview 7 other teachers. And that's perfectly fine. But what that's doing is it's putting a little like seed in the brain. Like, this David guy's asking, like, we gotta hurry up and get back to him because now he's waiting on our answer. You're kind of taking charge of the interview. It does wonders. I learned this at a job seminar like 20 some years ago, and I've used it ever since. It always works. So there you go. You know everything you need to know to get a job. You know where to find the job when you're coming out to Asia. And this is stuff that you can do while you're still back in the West. And finally, you know how to negotiate and what to do to get into these interviews and get the best out of them. So we are at that point where we have to stop making excuses. We just gotta do it and start living the life that we keep talking about. Take action. Check the links below. Get the books. Get the TEFL certification. Email that stuff to me. I will help you make it the best possible. Start moving to Asia in the next 30 to 90 days. The next 1 to 3 months, you could be out here living the life that you keep dreaming about. Till then, guys, I will see you again.